Hello, I'm Alexander Jeffrey, a summer associate with the Clark-Esposito law firm. This presentation will be about the Export Administration Regulations, specifically the controls and classifications. Generally, we will discuss an overview of the EAR, the classifications of the cargo regulated by the EAR, and the EAR prohibitions and compliance. First is background information about the Export Administration Regulations, or EAR for short. The Bureau of Industry and Security, BIS, under the U.S. Department of Commerce is tasked with advancing national security, foreign policy, and economic interests through developing export control policies, issuing export licenses, and developing programs that build a defense industrial base. BIS fulfills this task through the regulation of particular exports that are classified under federal regulations. Code of Federal Regulation Title 15, which is the Commerce and Foreign Trade, 15 CFR for short, provides all of the information and empowering federal statutes for BIS export regulation. The Export Administration Regulations subchapter sets forth all of the relevant guidelines that BIS uses for their regulations. There are four broad questions that every exporter who falls under EAR regulations should be asking. When an exporter is moving through the logistics of sending cargo, the Electronic Export Information (EEI) report is a major gatekeeper that will notify BIS if the export is prohibited or has any regulatory problems. As an exporter, a business may be confused as to which type of export their goods falls under and appropriate licensing, but BIS offers four key questions for the exporter to explore in making the determination. Who are the parties to the export transaction? Parties to an export transaction include, but are not limited to, the U.S. Principal Party in Interest, USPPI, carrier, intermediate consignee, ultimate consignee, and foreign principal party in interest, FPPI. Liability for inappropriate licensing and violations falls nearly entirely upon the USPPI, who will also be the exporter in these transactions, so the responsibility for party verification falls heavily upon them. The next question is, what is the cargo? Exported goods regulated by the EIR fall under either the Commerce Control List, CCL, or EAR 99 classifications. The EAR 99 classifies most common commercial items, many of which require no license unless the item's end use or other factors in a transaction, in particular, prompt the need for a license. The third question is, how is the cargo being used? Understanding how the cargo will be used falls upon information given by both the commodity description and written statements from the ultimate consignee. The commodity description provided by the exporter or initial holder of the cargo should be as technical as possible, as this may change the classification. The ultimate consignee should give a written description of their intended use of the cargo to the USPPI because some goods may have a wide array of end uses, some of which may require a special license to ship. BIS advises exporters to pay special attention to technology that is commonly used in both medical practices and weapons assembly, as all technology that has a weaponized end use will require a special license. The last question is, where is the export destined to? The final destination of the export can ultimately determine the export classification and which type of license is needed as well. The USPPI should be very clear as to who the ultimate consignee is and what country they are in. The U.S. Commerce, Treasury, and State Departments all have lists of designated individuals and entities that exporters are prohibited from interacting with. There are also entire countries upon which heavy regulations and export guidelines have been placed by these same departments, so it is important for exporters to check these lists during each transaction. Now, we have an overview of the Export Control Classification Numbers System, the ECCNs. BIS regulates select exported goods under the EAR through the Commerce Control List, CCL. Goods on the CCL must be technically described using the Export Control Classification Number System. The ECCN is broken into categories, product, and type of control, which are all signified by the codification system. There are categories. The first digit of an ECCN stands for the broad category that the item is classified under. Ranging from 0 to 9, each digit signifies a type of good. There is the product. The letter in an ECCN signifies the type of actual product within the given category that is subject to regulation. And lastly is the type of control. The three-digit number after the product letter signifies the specific control that is to be applied. There can be multiple types of controls dependent upon different factors for any given product. For more information about ECCNs, please look to our EAR Understanding ECCNs video. Under the ECCN system, there are also reasons for control and exceptions. Under each ECCN is the reason for control symbolized by at least one of 14 two-letter codes. The reason for control helps exporters to further understand if they are referring to the correct ECCN. Furthermore, it will help with understanding exceptions and the overall classification in filing. For exceptions, EAR Part 740 offers exceptions to the necessity of a license in certain scenarios. The exceptions are either list-based or transaction-based. An ECCN will commonly list the code of inapplicable exceptions, although applicability of other exceptions should still be checked thoroughly. Again, for more concise information, which is given about the ECCN system generally, please check our EAR Understanding ECCNs video. As mentioned earlier, if an EAR regulated item is not on the CCL, then it will fall under EAR 99 regulations. Generally, most commercial items subject to EAR are classified under EAR 99 and require no filing for licenses except in special circumstances. EAR 99 items are usually classified as low-technology consumer goods. A vast majority of the EAR 99 exports are classified as having no license required authorization, which is NLR. Items regulated as EAR 99 may still require a license if they are being transported to a block destination or the end use is related to a general activity or subject area that is regularly subjected to an ECCN regulation. Therefore, an EAR 99 may not be authorized as an NLR. Conversely, an item that is typically regulated by an ECCN but is part of a transaction that falls under an exception then becomes NLR authorized. BIS gives a list of 10 general prohibitions so that exporters have a clear reference as to what actions will constitute a violation or will explicitly need a license. First, export and re-export of controlled items to listed countries. Second, re-export and export from abroad of foreign-made items with more than a de minimis amount of controlled U.S. content. Third, re-export and export from abroad of foreign-produced direct product of U.S. technology and software. Fourth, denial orders. Fifth, export or re-export to prohibited end users or end users. Sixth, export or re-export to embargoed destinations. Seventh, support of proliferation activities. Eighth, in-transit shipments and items to be unladen from vessels or aircraft. Ninth, violation of any order, terms, and conditions. And 10th, proceeding with transactions with knowledge that a violation has occurred or is about to occur. Most of the general prohibitions are straightforward, and the title gives the necessary scope of the provision, but if greater insight is needed, each prohibition has a description in the EAR Part 736.2. Some of the prohibitions have information about their applicability to certain country groups or export types while also offering further definitions. Prohibition 4 prohibits businesses from conducting any type of export that falls under the EAR due to an official order from the Bureau of Industry and Security revoking the business's privilege to export. A denial order is issued for businesses that have committed regular or particularly egregious violations to the EAR. Prohibition 8, in part, prohibits the interaction with cargo that is knowingly passing through one of the listed or prohibited countries found in the regulations. Now for violations. EAR Part 764.2 explicitly states the actions that will constitute a violation of the general prohibitions. There are 11 actions ranging from failure to comply with record keeping to conspiracy. EAR Part 764.3 describes how administrative, criminal, and other sanctions can be imposed on an exporter that commits a violation. Codified under each type of sanction are classifications for actions that will lead to those violations and the extent of punitive action that will be taken given the circumstances. Our last topic is compliance activities. BIS offers a great amount of guidance for complying with the EAR. The following list summarily covers many of the actions exporters can take to avoid violations. Ideally, an exporter would have a complete internal compliance program that would satisfy each of these points. Use watch lists to review all license application parties. Prepare bona fide reports on foreign transaction parties for licensing and law enforcement support. Review exports using the Automated Exports System, AES. Review and share intelligence information with the industry. Encourage voluntary self-disclosures. Check end users and end uses after export via post-shipment verifications. Leverage interagency partners in review of visa applications. Maintain on-site outreach and license exceptions document reviews. Uphold an exporter compliance program of best practices, education, and training. AES edits and error messages created with census to enhance compliance for AES filers. In summary, we discussed an overview of the EAR, the classifications of cargo regulated by the EAR, and EAR prohibitions and compliance. Here at the Clark-Esposito law firm, our goal is to help streamline the global business operations of importers, exporters, and the companies that support them. So if you have a question, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you for viewing.